America happens to be the birthplace of the credit card, so it is probably understandable why it practically has a chokehold on the country. The first credit card was issued as recently as 1959 by the Bank of America, and that played a major role in changing the way Americans live and work. Today, credit cards are a vital part of our economy, and they are used to purchase everything from groceries to cars. But the introduction of the credit cards did not mark the introduction of credit in America or anywhere around the world. Before the first card was issued, credit was offered in a variety of ways, including hire purchase, buy now, pay later, bank overdrafts, and loans from loan sharks. Then sometime in the early 1900s, oil companies and other big companies started issuing what is called a charge card. This card allowed customers to buy and pay later. But unlike the credit cards that we have today, with charge cards, customers had to pay their debt in full. So they could pay at a later date, but installment payments were not available. Another way that the charge cards differ from credit cards is that the charge cards would only be afforded by the rich, even though it was technically made available to everyone. The next evolution in what we now know as credit cards happened in the late 1930s. A couple of stores instituted a credit system that did not just allow people to pay later, but offered payment in installments. They typically offered a 4-month payment plan, which was quite revolutionary at the time. But it was still not exactly what we have now because customers could not get credit on a variety of products at the same time. One had to finish payment on one product before getting credit on another. The 1930s also saw the introduction of air travel cards. The cards allowed customers to pay for the flight in installments and also offered some interesting discounts. And by 1940, there were about 17 airlines that accepted the travel card. Now, all these different cards and credit systems culminated in the creation of the credit cards that we use today. But the factor that set the ball rolling has to be the introduction and success of the Diners Club card. The Diners Club card was Frank McNamara's brainchild, and he came up with the idea after he found that he'd left his wallet at home, and so couldn't pay for the dinner that he was having with his wife and several business associates. His wife got the tab, but Frank got an idea. Many other people might not always have money to pay for dinner, so why not make some money out of that? And so in 1950, the Diners Club charge card came into existence. Holders had to pay $3 every year to use the card, while the restaurants and other stores that accepted the card as a payment had to pay a 7% commission. By the end of the first year, McNamara and his business associate, Ralph Snyder, had signed up 20,000 members, so a lot of money was coming in for them. This is probably why financial institutions decided to get in on the card business. In 1958, American Express, which was at the time a mail-in money order company, issued the first general use charge card. And then in 1959, Bank of America issued the first credit card. This card was more widely available than all the charge cards before it, and a lot more businesses and merchants were willing to accept it as a medium of payment. This is probably because it was issued by the Bank of America. However, it wasn't until the 1970s that the credit cards took off in the US, and that happened thanks to technology. The 1970s came with the magnetic strip, which was capable of storing data. This strip was added to the back of the credit cards, allowing for card payments to be made by simply swiping the card. Naturally, this completely revolutionized things. Remember that we were talking about credit cards here. Credit cards allow people to buy things on credit. So with the metal strip on the back of the cards, borrowing or buying things on credit became very easy and accessible. It was no longer a thing for the wealthy. Of course, other factors make credit card payment more attractive aside from the ease of payment. An important one has to be the fact that credit card companies were quite aggressive with their marketing and advertisements towards the end of the 90s and into the 2000s. And of course, what they pushed in their marketing was the fact that customers could get whatever they wanted even if they could not afford it. Unfortunately, at the time and probably till now, people failed to remember that credit card money is not free money. One might not have to worry about paying for what they want at the point of purchase, but they would have to worry about it at some point. eventually one would have to pay back. And they might even have to pay back more than what they owed. I mean, credit card interest rates are about 16% in the US right now. Many people could not afford to, though, because nothing had changed with their earning power. So, leading up to the 2008 crash, many people had racked up thousands of dollars in credit card debts, with some people trying to pay their credit card debts with other credit cards. In the wake of the crash, the credit card companies themselves lost money because, well, all people that borrowed could not afford to pay back. This then led to the introduction of credit card scores into credit card issuance. Credit card companies decided to be pickier about who they issued their cards. So, depending on your existing credit history, you might not be issued a credit card. What this means is that you need to have borrowed at some point and in some way and then paid back promptly to qualify for many credit cards nowadays. And then, of course, the higher your credit score as determined by your credit history, the higher the credit limit that credit card companies will offer you. For people who use their cards responsibly by making their monthly payments on time, the reward is usually an extension of their credit limit. And while this might seem like a good thing, it has proven to be a trap for some people. Maybe the reason they could faithfully make their monthly payments was because that was what they could afford. But with a wider credit limit, there's the temptation to spend way above what one can afford. Now, this video is not to discourage anyone from getting or using credit cards. After all, as much as there are negatives, there are also positives to using credit cards. The biggest one is that they allow us to get things that we can't afford right now. If you think about it, the only difference between saving for something and paying for it with a credit card is that paying with a credit card allows you to have what you need now. That said, credit cards do present a real danger in that they are a huge temptation. A temptation that is made even worse by the fact that America is currently battling its highest inflation rate since the early 1980s. And the fact that credit card balances jumped by 15% in 2022 shows that we are not strong enough to overcome that temptation. But what do you think about credit cards? Are you a proponent or an opponent? Let me know in the comments. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Have a nice day, and we'll see you at the next one.